My wife and I adopted a dog. That's very exciting for us. Yeah, oh, thank you. She's a pug, so scientifically she shouldn't even exist, so every day's a miracle with our little dumpling. Her name is Busy, but it wasn't always. When we adopted her, her name was Daisy, but we didn't like that, so we switched it to Busy, which is very rude of us. Because when we adopted our dog, she was 8 years old. You guys get that's middle age for a dog. That's like meeting a 56-year-old human and going, what's your name, Deborah? Nah. I'm gonna go ahead and call you Barbara. Hope that works for you. I mean, you better be cool with it because I control all the food and water and you're too small to reach the doorknob, so.
There's Josh Gondelman talking about his own dog. We were just talking about dogs, coincidentally.
Yeah,
is that dog still alive?
She's still alive. She's
okay,
15 years old.
15, because we were just talking about how that's 7 years away from the world's oldest dog that just died, which was 22.
Oh, rest in peace.
22-year-old. Yeah. Pebbles, the Chihuahua, just died, yeah.
I thought she was going to make it to 23.
I know. She was a few months shy. We were pulling for her, really hoping to.
I thought she was going to keep the streak alive.
I know.
I was like, Aaron Judge is going to hit 62 and Pebbles is going to be 23.
That's right. Josh is right around the corner here tonight. You're doing one show in the Cabaret Room at Hilarities.
Show only.
One show. What is it, a 7 o'clock show?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock show.
9 o'clock show, and there's not a ton of tickets left.
No.
There are a few. But get them now, hilarities.com.
And I think 9 o'clock is perfect because it gives everybody time to sober up after the game today.
Right. They'll get a disco nap or something and then come over and see you.
Get a second drunk on if that's your thing.
You're from the Boston area.
I am.
Mary Santora is in Boston. She's doing shows.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And so where are you, the Laugh Factory?
Laugh Boston.
Laugh Boston is where she is.
Oh, I love Laugh Boston. Hey, tell everybody I said what's up. I'm there over Thanksgiving. I go home and do shows. It's the best.
Is that because you're from north of Boston?
Yeah, I'm from just outside the city, North Shore, Stoneham, Massachusetts.
Stoneham, I know Stoneham, Mass. Yeah, it's Nancy Kerrigan's hometown.
Yep, that's if you know one thing, it's that.
And Mario Cantone, I think, is from Stoneham too.
Wow, you know more about Stoneham than anyone I've ever met not from Stoneham.
Well, it's not a huge. I did a week's worth of shows in Boston like 15 years ago, and we were trying to do this bit about getting. There was a place in Stoneham called Taste of Siam or something like. We literally like went online and we're looking for something. I go, we should do a bit where we send somebody up to get food from Taste of Siam, and the whole thing just fell apart. But in that moment, I learned a couple of things about Stoneham.
Yep. Well, 15 years ago, I think, I was going to say the third thing anybody knows, there's a zoo there, and there was in suburban Massachusetts throughout my childhood a polar bear that lived in my town.
In a Massachusetts zoo.
A polar bear named Major.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
He didn't make it either.
Went the way of Coco, yeah.
So, Josh, it's been a while since you've been on this show.
It's been a long time.
You were still writing for John Oliver, I think, when you were,
I think it was like 2015.
It was a while ago.
I was here. Yeah, I was right. I worked for John Oliver, and because I haven't even been there since the end of 2018, I left.
Now, do you go out? Because I know you were writing for Jesus and Mero, too, and then that went away.
Yes.
So, like, when that's going down, because it sounded like it might have been whatever breadcrumbs they were giving people, because that was a really big show. Like, people really, it was a funny show. It was over on Showtime. It's very, very funny. And whatever you guys were writing for them, they were, doing very well with it.
Yeah, they're wonderful. I mean, and so they were so fun to work with. And John as well. I've had really good luck working with people that are just like hilarious, and you don't have to, prop up and be like, come on, just do something funny.
Yeah, but also it's like you've done a lot of writing in your career. Does it get to the point where you're kind of between different shows, you're kind of in the mix of people who, they need somebody over here, and this.
Yeah, I've been doing a little stuff that I don't think I can talk about quite yet, but a little stuff.
No, you can. I said so. It's fine.
It's okay. Yeah.
I think I can say after I was head writer for the final season of Jesus and Mero, which is very thrilling, and then on the side I've been working on a show that I will say is a much bigger hit with my parents and in-laws than Jesus and Mero was.
Yeah, right. They weren't watching that.
It's Dick Van Dyke. I've been doing a little bunch up for Dick Van Dyke.
He's got a new soft shoe variety show. He's gonna. Boy, you talk
very
about
soft shoe. It's slippers.
Yeah, you talk about a guy who's still kicking. Dick Van Dyke. The guy's like 99 years old.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's on that short list of, and it gets shorter every year, but on that short list of like old celebrities.
Yeah, I just read Mel Brooks's memoir. In the winter, and he's one of those guys that's like, I have to, at some point, I'll have to acknowledge that he's not just going to live forever.
Right.
Like
Norman Lear is 99 years
Lear.
old, and you go, oh my God, this guy is still like, he's posting stuff on Instagram, and he's still lucid and funny and all that, but you're like, he'll just one day die.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's same
You guys
as
get
Coco.
death.
We get it. I understand how it
You
works.
understand how it works.
Yeah, people listening there at home are like, wait a minute, no, not
That's
Norman
how it
Lear.
works? No, what I liked, and I think it's the modern Seinfeld Twitter account was
Oh,
yours
thank
too,
you.
and because I'm a massive Seinfeld nerd, so just in that universe, it made me laugh. That's long gone though, I think.
Yeah,
right?
we stopped. My friend Jacqueline and I did that for a few years, and then we both. I mean, it was such a jumping off point. Like if this was back when like a viral Twitter thing got us a bunch of attention and got us a bunch of meetings, and we both started working in TV pretty soon after that,
Yeah.
and we just didn't have the time to like pour all these ideas that were like, oh, this would be a fun show into this Twitter that we were just like shooting out into the world as kind of a business card.
Was it something that when you were doing it at that time, was that something that kind of would just, I'm not sure how to put it. Was it something that would kind of bridge you between gigs, or was it just something where you were like, I got a couple of minutes? And
It was more like that. Like it was the kind of thing where we, Jacqueline was working at BuzzFeed, I was tutoring and going on the road, and then so it would just kind of be like shoveling coal into the fire of like how viral that thing was and how big it popped right away.
Yeah.
So it was just like bigger than either of our individual platforms. We could be like, a modern Seinfeld plot, like Elaine forgets her Instagram password and can't post from vacation and people think she's dead.
Right.
Like just something like that.
Right,
and then
right,
people
right.
would be like, ah!
Well, because there were a bunch of kind of, if I recall correctly, there were a handful of like rip-off accounts too.
Yeah,
There were
and-
like other people that were like, oh, that's a funny idea, and then they just kind of, but you guys were the first ones, I think, to do that.
It was really interesting. And there's another like Seinfeld adjacent account that's still going. And then people are doing like modern Sex in the City. It was like
Yeah.
a really wild little moment to have kind of been there at the beginning of. And it was like a really helpful thing in my career where it was truly the first thing, like it was such a thing so quickly that it was the first credit I ever had that people go, oh, this guy's the co-creator of Modern Seinfeld on Twitter. And people in audiences at like comedy clubs in New York that were not there to see me would be like,
know what it was.
"Ooh," like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could hear the excitement.
Those
Yeah.
were your bona fides when they heard
Truly
about
wild.
that. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. It sounds like so silly to say, and it's such a like a specific moment in history. It's like the dinosaur DNA from Jurassic Park. where,
Right.
my career is frozen in amber at that moment.
Yeah. But it's also before, I mean, Twitter's been around a long time now, but that was still at a time where Twitter had not become like a full-on cesspool either.
Totally.
Like people were still having fun-ish
Yes.
with Twitter.
And it felt like it had been less saturated with like kind of acrimonious political discourse, and it was
Yes.
mostly for bits.
Yeah.
And so this was like a real. It cut through pretty quickly because there was just less happening, and it was less of like, we can't believe you're joking at a time like this. You know,
Yeah,
it was
right.
just like, oh, you can just do silly stuff.
It was also just very clever, and there was a time when you were getting found on Twitter when it
Yeah.
was people, the pizza. What was that guy? The stuff my dad says.
Oh yeah.
Where they
Yes,
like,
Justin
let's make this
Halpern.
into a show.
Huge.
Right.
And he's
And then Humble Brags, which was Harry.
right. Rest in peace to
Yeah.
Harris Whittles.
Yeah.
And
Oh, God,
yeah,
yeah.
there were all these things that started off germinating there in the same way that like any, it's now I guess TikTok is where people are
Let's
mostly
be real
looking.
now. Be real.
What's that? Be real. Yeah, I'm gonna
Be
get
real.
discovered on Be Real
Yeah.
for like a picture of my dog sitting on my feet and then myself in an unflattering angle. They're gonna be like, wow, this guy's dog really has something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's being very real.
But you were
That's
talking.
what-
You mentioned kind of an aside there that you were, tutoring and then going out on the road.
Yeah.
You were a teacher for a while.
Yeah, I taught
Yeah.
preschool full time after I
You
graduated
teach
Brandeis.
preschool.
I taught pre-K.
But do you teach?
I mean,
You're taking young minds and beginning. You're the first person to take that clay and start to mold it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for those kids, it's so sweet. I worked at this school in Arlington, Massachusetts for like 4 years full time, and when I come back to Boston for shows, because I live in New York now, when I come back to Boston for shows, some of the parents of the kids I taught 15 years ago will still come out and see me. It's so sweet. And they're like,
cool.
hey, our kids are going off to college. And I'm like, I'm going to die immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt
That's a
older.
shocking moment when
Kids
they're,
that I haven't seen since they were 4.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, this is them at prom. And I'm like, yikes. One of them,
I mentioned that a couple days ago. I was like, I'll get messages from people like, oh, I remember listening to you in junior high.
Yes.
In like another city
Yeah.
or something. I'm like, man, I'm
wow,
old. Yeah.
wild. And a couple years ago, a couple of the kids found me on Instagram and sent a message that was like, oh my gosh, you're my preschool teacher. This is cool. And I was like, this is very sweet, but like, we can't be friends because you're 16. I was like, when you call me, when you graduate college, let's have a cup of coffee and you can tell me about the last 20 years of your life.
Right.
But I can't have 16-year-old friends. It's just a bad look for an adult
Until
man.
then, it's arm's length between you and me.
But it's very sweet and it's like so nice. It feels like I feel like I couldn't have messed anyone's kids up too bad if their parents are still coming to my shows.
Well, and it also might be a huge stretch on my part, but I can't imagine that the dynamics between preschool teacher and stand-up are that different. You're trying to get a group of people who are uninterested interested in what you're saying.
The drunker the audiences are, the more my preschool teacher training kicks in.
Yeah.
I used to say, because, heckling, I think, isn't quite as common as people perceive it to be. And, and just the public are like, oh, do you get heckled all the time? And it's no. But I used to say, I would go, 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me. If the crowd got right, I go, that's preschool teacher for shut up. I'm talking right now.
Yeah. But it works, probably.
Yeah, focuses them up.
Yeah. Josh Gondelman is doing one show tonight, right around the corner here at Pickwick and Frolic in the cabaret room there. 9 o'clock show, and there are not many tickets left because you've got a combination of people who love the words that came out of Desus and Mero's mouth, who love that Seinfeld Twitter account, and then whatever Dick Van Dyke project is coming down the road. You've been married a little while now.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years.
It's the best.
I assume, is your wife in the business too?
She is adjacent. She works in like books and publishing.
Yeah.
So there's like some overlap, but it's nice that we don't complain about the same things to each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have parallel complaints, which is nice.
How did that start? Was it a scholarly relationship? Like, how did the two of you probably ran in some similar circles?
Yeah, we knew of each other.
Yeah.
She had this blog called Slaughterhouse 90210, and which is great. It was great. Now defunct.
Right.
And a mutual friend who we had both just met invited me to a party that she was throwing for the 5th anniversary of her Tumblr. So again,
what
I'm
a
aging
New York
myself
story
exactly.
too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Her literary Tumblr. So I went to this bar and it's the only cool thing I've ever done in my life. No lie. We meet at this party. We knew of each other, so it wasn't like weird. And she was like, oh, how are you doing? And I go, I just booked this gig in Sweden. I'm really excited about it. I've never performed in Europe before. And she's like,
it was true, or that you were doing a bit?
For real.
Yeah,
No, for real.
Yeah.
And she had a couple drinks. And so she goes, well, I want to go to Sweden. And I go, all right, come to Sweden, but hold on, give me your phone number. We should hang out in the United States first to make sure we don't hate each other.
Right.
So she gives me her number, and I texted her the next day and was just like, hey, I had so much fun chatting last night. Let's hang out before it's weird that we haven't hung out, and it's one of those New York things where you're just like, we should totally sometime. And then 9 years go by, we each have 3 kids with different people.
We should have gone to Sweden.
Yep.
Remember?
She never came to Sweden with me, which is good because my whole family came.
Right.
But
your whole family comes with you.
My parents and my sister. My parents had never gone to Europe, and I think my mom had always wanted my dad to go to Europe with her, and this was the excuse that I was finally like, come on, let's go. So we went to Sweden, and it was great. We went to Stockholm. I dragged my parents and my little sister.
All I remember, one of the first jobs I was ever offered in radio was in Stockholm. And my thought process at the time was I made the analogy of where, like, some athletes will go overseas, and then it's real hard for them to come back. At least it was then. I'm talking like early 90s, mid-90s.
I mean, Brittany Griner.
It has proven to be especially difficult for her to come back.
It's still difficult to come back.
Right.
Yeah,
so in my mind, when I was kind of trying to start a career in this, I was like, well, if I go overseas, I'm not going to be taken seriously back here in the States. So I didn't work for this station in Stockholm. But I did tell them, hey, if you want to fly me over there, blah, blah, blah. Everybody walking around in Sweden looks like they're on a beer poster.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's like a hilarious cliche almost when you're looking around.
Oh, yeah. You're like, is this Sweden in a movie? Like,
Right.
it's almost
The
like,
Hallmark
this is
Channel
too
version of
Swedish.
Sweden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tone it down a little bit.
So when you were growing up in Massachusetts, were your parents scholarly types? I mean, were they appreciative of what you were trying to do? Were you a funny kid?
they were really cool. Yeah, I mean, they've always been great. My mom was in education, and I worked for her like summers between college and high school and stuff. I would work as like an assistant at the summer program at the schools that she was running. And then my dad was in construction for 40 years.
Yeah.
And when I started doing comedy, my mom was like, well, as long as you have health insurance. That's what she always said. Which I guess if I went to Sweden and lived there, I wouldn't have to worry about it. Right?
It was baked into the cake.
The Swedish comedian, it would be too hard to come back, like you were saying.
Right.
And my dad, this is the sweetest. I was like kind of just like goofing off and doing stand up while I was teaching preschool, and I wasn't making any progress. Like I went to college for creative writing, and then just didn't write other than stand up for years. And my dad like sat me down one time and was like, "Hey, it seems like you're not doing as much writing as you want. What's standing in the way?" And I was like, I've been given the advice to like read all these literary magazines and like see where I fit in. And I just like haven't, it's been too daunting. And I just like have put up too many roadblocks. And my dad was like, here's $40, go buy all the literary magazines that you think you should submit to, and then figure out and like start like get that back into gear. And I was like, that's so supportive, because it wasn't like, they were rich and were paying my rent.
Sure.
But my dad was just like, I want you to like give your dream the best shot,
Right.
which is wonderful.
So
Were you living with them at the time?
I don't think I was.
Okay.
I did live with them briefly.
I was gonna say, he's like, that was a very nice way of him being like, hey, can you get it together?
Get this, get yourself in gear, because this preschool career isn't going to support you owning a home.
Yeah, right. But, there's so many people in that line of work who come from, a life of pain informs my comedy.
Yeah.
And not everybody has to be that way.
They're really, I mean, they're like characters. They're very sweet. And, but it's not like, oh, I do comedy because my parents never paid attention to me. I was like, I do comedy because my parents would pay attention when I would do it.
Yeah, right. I always had a spotlight on me. And so that informs some people too.
My sister told me, my sister's 2 years behind me in school, and I'm a performer. I'm very talkative. And when I left for college, my sister and I talked on the phone a couple months later, and she goes, yeah, Mom and Dad have a lot more questions for me now that you're not sucking up all the oxygen at dinner.
Yeah, right. Oh, we got to know that. We have a daughter, and she's a very nice person.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on.
Yeah. So you were, no one was surprised in your family when they were like, oh, Josh is going to be a comedian.
No,
they weren't shocked.
It made a lot of sense, I think. They knew, like, I'd started doing stand-up pretty young. I started when I was in college, and they knew that I wanted to do comedy stuff. I, like, was in plays in high school and everything. So I mean, maybe there are varying degrees of surprise that I pulled it off.
Right.
But I don't think
you were going to college in Boston?
I went to college at Brandeis, so just outside the city.
Yeah.
I say that first because if I go, I went to college just outside Boston, everyone goes, oh, he's trying not to say he went to Harvard.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's Brandeis.
Which I did, yeah. But yeah, I went to school there and started doing stand-up in the city. And yeah, it was great. I think the only person who would have been surprised would be my late grandmother, who this will stick with me forever. She came to see me in one of the high school plays I was in. It's probably Fiddler on the Roof. And after the play, she goes, you're really more of a writer.
Some people like to perform what they write, and other people like to write for someone else who then performs it. Yeah.
Well, you showed her.
Well, take that, Nana.
Someone had to light a fire under.
That's right.
Yeah, that was it. That's like my 8 Mile story.
Grandma's spaghetti was all over his sweater.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate it.
Keep us in the loop on the new Dick Van Dyke project, too,
I will.
when that happens. I'm sure we'll see it. But
And you got your special People Pleaser.
Oh, yeah. Yep, the special People Pleaser is out. It's free for Prime members. It's a totally different hour than I'm going to be doing tonight at Hilarities and tomorrow at Bottle Rocket in Pittsburgh. So if you like the special, come out and see a different show. And if you didn't like the special, hey, give it a shot tonight. It's going to be a bunch of different shows.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh listeners, he's going to be a Bottle Rocket tomorrow night, which is on Arlington Avenue.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh is at Hilarities tonight. It's a 9 o'clock show. There's only one show. I would just go to the box office and get tickets at this point, but you can get the information online too. And we'll take a break. 35192 if you want to text for anything, and you can listen, of course, wherever on the iHeartRadio app.
The can't-miss music event of the year is coming to the CW.
The 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Featuring once-in-a-lifetime performances from the biggest superstars in all of music.
Halsey brings the celebration.
You guys know how to have fun. Luke Combs brings the country.
Lionel Richie celebrates half a century of hits.
What's up, Vegas? Avril Lavigne proves she's pop punk's princess.
Pitbull parties on stage.
Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo play the classics.
Sam Smith launches a new era.
I couldn't wait to give this song to you guys.
Maren Morris takes Vegas to church.